When we think of travel, Airbnb is the first thing that pops into our head. How did a simple idea by two roommates become the foundation of a multi-billion-dollar industry? This is a story of the rise of Airbnb. Modern technological advancements have made it possible and simple to find suitable accommodations for any kind of trip with the emergence of dependable lodging companies, and one of the most popular of such companies is Airbnb. The startup story of Airbnb is quite interesting. The Airbnb company history started in 2007 in San Francisco when Brian Chesky and Joe were roommates. They were worried about their rent, which was due because they didn't have money at the time. While thinking of ways to pay the rent, they came across the design conference scheduled to be held in San Francisco that weekend and found that all hotel bookings were sold out. An idea picked up and they immediately decided to host some guests from the conference in their room.
And at that point, we just had this idea. We said, well, designers need a place to stay. We literally have no money. In fact, I don't know how I'm going to make rent. So we thought, what if we just created a bed and breakfast for the design conference?
The idea involved their loft, a few air mattresses, and the promise that paying guests would be served breakfast after a good night's sleep. They created a website, airbedandbreakfast.com, and drummed up business as tour guides at the conference. Within hours, an Indian man, a woman from Boston, and a man from Utah had booked into their loft for $80 each. They got 3 air beds and hosted the 3 guests, thus planting a seed for Airbnb. Later, when the guests left, Joe and Brian gave further thoughts to the idea and decided to move further. Air, Bed and Breakfast was born.
Air, Bed and Breakfast was not the big idea. We thought it would pay the rent. So we had enough time to think of the big idea.
Born it might have been popular, it was not. Chesky tried to gain funding from the business to invest in the technology but only received a stack of rejections from a range of venture capitalists. At the 2008 Democratic National Convention, Air, Bed and Breakfast tried to replicate the modest success they'd enjoyed in San Francisco Design Festival, but their spare room website flanked, so they ended up designing and selling cereal boxes with political designs, such as the Obama O cereals for $40 a box.
Joe Gebbia and Brian Chesky. They had created a website, airbedandbreakfast.com, to connect convention goers at both conventions looking for a cheap place to stay with residents who had space on their couch or an extra room. Well, now the team has made another contribution, as you can see here, to the presidential campaign with partisan cereals, Obama O's, and Cap'n McCain.
Chesky and Joe then hit the street, staying with hosts, writing reviews and taking pictures of the homes on offer. In March 2009, they changed their company's name to Airbnb. The name Airbnb was derived from the company's initial name, Air, Bed and Breakfast. The company was addressed as Air, Bed and Breakfast even before its formal inception in 2008. The founders reasoned the name as a reference to the air mattresses rented out to the 3 guests they hosted in 2007. Later in 2009, the name was changed from Air, Bed and Breakfast to Airbnb. Within a month, they locked in $600,000 from Sequoia and went Raymond profitable. Having refined their tech with capital to scale, Airbnb went global. By 2011, it was present in over 89 countries. As their popularity grew, investors put in $112 million, valuing the company at over $1 billion. By 2016, it went cash flow positive and pulled more than $1 billion in revenue, growing 80% from 2015. The only question was when, not if, it would go public. But Chesky wanted to develop the product as he saw fit. He wanted to stay private. His decision was in contrast to many in the Valley who during the late 2010s preferred to push the unicorns into the public domain as soon as it was viable. Chesky's decision raised tensions with shareholders who wanted an out via the multi-billion-dollar public valuation that was on offer. By 2017, Airbnb reached profitability and the market estimated it could achieve a valuation of $40 billion at IPO. Again, Chesky resisted, pushing to continue to grow the company in his image. In early 2018, Mr. Chesky released an open letter outlining the infinite time horizon for the company, a decision that seemed prudent as Airbnb's growth boomed. Airbnb connects people or guests who are in search of accommodation with a host who are interested in renting out their places. They help the host to find guests by allowing them to display their place on Airbnb's platform for free of cost. On the other side, the customers get a chance to choose the accommodation from myriad places showcased as per their needs. Airbnb collects the payment online, retains it until 24 hours after the guests check in, and then pays the host. Airbnb's revenue comes from two-way commission charged from both the host and the guest. They charge 3% from the host and typically around 11% from the guest from every transaction made. Started in a room in San Francisco, today Airbnb have their listings in over 100,000 cities around the world. Airbnb grew from nothing to $30 billion in just 11 years. The COVID-19 pandemic came as a terrible disaster to their business operation. However, when the company went public in December 2020, Airbnb made a remarkable achievement by entering a $100 billion market valuation right on the first day of the IPO. Airbnb share value surged to a record 113% from $68 per share to $144 per share. This was one of the highest first-day rallies in US history. Airbnb has faced several challenges. There are different rental laws and regulations for every country and sometimes even cities. For example, New York rental laws prohibit renting properties for less than 30 days unless the tenant is living there. Airbnb took the issue in court, but finally in 2019, they agreed to share information of listings that New York City laws demanded. Another challenge is fraudulent listings. A travel blogger named Asher Ferguson found that some hosts used fake and fraudulent information to get through Airbnb's background check. This unauthenticated hosting resulted in a number of negative incidents like privacy invasion, booking cancellation, refund refusal, and some rare incidences of corpses spotted on the lawn and even murder. Airbnb is still struggling to completely eradicate such fraudulent listings. Another challenge was COVID-19. When COVID-19 decimated the global travel industry, shareholders must have cast Chesky's stubbornness of not going public sooner. 2020 revenues dropped by 67%, and they were forced to lay off a quarter of their staff, halt all marketing and all projects that sat outside its core offering of home sharing. Chesky raised an emergency 2 billion shillings in debt and equity and hoped to ride up the storm. Despite the many obstacles that came their way, Airbnb continued to steadily rise. Many countries have seen a direct impact on the economy due to Airbnb. Guests were also most likely to spend a lot more in neighboring cafes and restaurants if they stayed in an Airbnb. Airbnb serves over 220 countries and regions across the world today. Airbnb offers a significant advantage over hotels in terms of cost, amenities, customer satisfaction, service, and many more. They create value for both host, free listing of the asset, and the guest, offering a unique and authentic experience at an affordable cost. The Airbnb startup story is one of the most inspiring ones ever. There you have it. That is the story of the rise of Airbnb.